all the things that you need
All
to
the
figure out.
factors. Yeah.
All the criteria, right? At least you're bringing home $1 or $100. You said preferably $100 that you're cash flowing, but based off of that, then I calculated within a year for me to quit my job, at least for me to live comfortable. I would need, I think the aggressive number was, and this is just units, so about 175 units at $100. That's saying at $100 per unit cash flow. But you could probably get more,
Much more.
much more than that. So now I'm in my plan. I'm listing out that I want at least a cash on cash ROI of 10%.
Yeah, it's very.
But I don't know if that's achievable in Jersey because of
You said
taxes and
cash on cash.
cash on cash.
Oh, cash on cash, you'll get much more than that.
But is that net or is that gross?
Well, I can't net out taxes because you don't know what your taxes are going to be for whatever you're.
No, but I mean, as far as the net would be minus like we just said, all the criteria, which is what the.
I'll give you a simple example. Say you buy a 2-family house, each floor is paying you $1,000, right? And you bought it for $100,000, and you put down 20%. So your all-in cash is $20,000, right? So if your income monthly is $2,000, in the course of a year, that's $24,000. $24,000 is the profit, but then you have a mortgage payment. Let's say your mortgage payment is $1,000 a month, right? Just to give you round numbers, that includes taxes and insurance, right? So now you're down to $12,000 in expenses a year on that. And so you're left with $12,000, and then you have to factor out like a vacancy factor of like 5%. You have to factor out any maintenance. So call it 10% between vacancy and maintenance. So it's another 10% you got to take out. So if it's 24,
property management too, right?
Well, you'd want to manage it yourself in the beginning, but in the end, yeah, you'd want to factor in. If you want to go big, you're gonna have to factor in another 10% for property manager.
So that piece right there, that's the piece that it doesn't scare me. I don't know if it's something I want to deal with, right?
You don't have to. You can factor another 10% for that.
Right.
If you did that, then I mean, obviously your numbers start to
right.
But you'll still be ahead of the game. So I'll just give you an example. Let's just say we're at 12,000. We have to take out 20% between maintenance, maintenance, vacancy, and management. And we said it was 24,000 a year, so we have to take 20% of that. That's $4,800. $4,800. So you're left with $7,200 net, more or less. Obviously there may be some little odds and ends.
Right.
But you're all in 20,000, so you're making 7,200 on an investment of 20,000. That's way more than 10%.
Okay.
So if you look at it that way, your cash on cash is way higher with these properties. But when you're reading stuff and you're getting information, a lot of these investors, a lot of these gurus that write books and do articles and do blogs, their marketplace is totally different. Like their average home price is like $100,000. Like it's different.
Yeah.
So for them to make $100 a month per unit is like great for them. For us, it's like that means that you're either overpaying or your rent's too low, one or the other. So it's relevant. Depending on where you live in the country.
Okay, understood.
Yeah, but you should definitely cash on cash way higher than that. Total cap rate 10%. Yes, that's fine. It's sort of like including I'm just not even factoring in your mortgage payment. That's just like what you paid for it and then what it's producing. That's just a regular cap. But cash on cash, you should be looking at much higher than that.
Okay.
Closer to like 30%.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so as far as the questions, so I guess we, if you don't mind, we can go through the ones that. So so as far as the team, right? I guess I'd like to, hear from you on some recommendations if you have any for, the team members that I can maybe start to reach out and talk to.
Sure.
Attorney, CPA, of course, so I can start to structure out, how, basically I'm going to cover or protect the assets and protect myself. And also, set the goals or tell them my goals of, where I want to see myself between 5 to 10 years. And then, we could structure the strategy around that. So contractors, I mean, that's another thing, right? So contractors, I know, probably contractors, you're probably going to end up working with a few different ones to feel them out.
Yeah.
I guess the ins and outs with that is, is there, as far as ballparking, without, because I'm sure over time, I'm going to be able to go into a house and be like, oh, probably a new roof, just flooring, maybe some plumbing, electrical. I could break it down by criteria like that and just know in my head, what would a guesstimate ballpark, right?
Yeah.
I guess working towards that, is there, I guess, is that just experience or is that, working with a contractor to, get you that information? So that's that. Mortgage broker, right?
You want me to answer that one first?
Okay, sure.
So with a contractor, you're going to kiss a lot of frogs before you find the right one. So you definitely have to look around when it comes to that. I can give you a couple references of guys that I use that are very reputable, but you may love them or you may not get along with them. It all depends on how your personalities match. But as far as being reputable, they're okay. Come see me when you're ready, because guys tend to change sometimes too. Right. Something may happen in their lives and it throws them off. But I do have a few guys that I can recommend you for that. But yeah, with time you'll start to just eyeball a house and know what it needs. I'm to the point where I can just look at the house from the outside and know what it's going to need inside already.
Right.
If they don't keep up with their landscape, if the front steps are falling apart, it kind of almost tells me what the rest of the house inside is going to look like. But once you're first walking into a house, you're not going to notice as much work as what it really needs. You're going to think things look okay. You don't know what to look for. So initially, if you eyeball a house and you're trying to figure out a price for yourself, come up with a list of expenses that you think it needs, and then double it, because it's probably going to be twice of what you think it is.
So that's a good point. So as far as the estimates, right? Because usually I'm gonna, from what I understand, anyways, even if you own your own house, you want to get a few different bids, right? Depending on the bids. That's just an estimate on what they think it's going to be, material plus, hours, right?
Yeah.
Labor. So, is there, I guess, opportunity to work out terms with the contractor to say, like, listen, I'm going to be giving you a lot of business here. You're giving me this price. Let's say you open, that drywall there and you find, like, rat's nest back there. Is there a way to work out an agreement to say, like, can we go, if there is overage, can we work out maybe 50-50?
Overage, you mean like if he's charging you worst case scenario and the worst case scenario never comes?
No, well, so he gives me a set price for the everything that I wrote down, all the work. But he found something that actually needs more work, so it's going to cost me more money.
Yeah.
So that's the overage.
Oh, you mean overage on that? Well, this is what you can't expect anyone to do. You can't expect anyone to pay for your house to be renovated. So what I do is that I know that sometimes there's unforeseen things. Some things are blatantly not unforeseen things. Like, dude, you should have saw this. This is your contractor. You should have known that this was what needed to be done. You got to pick your battles. But if he opens up a wall and he finds that because you want to open up the kitchen to the dining room, and you find that the beams that are above it are rotted out. He could have never foreseen that. You understand? So you can't always beat him up for things that he has no control over. A lot of times these contractors want to be as tight as possible with their numbers so they can get the opportunity to work with you. So you also have to be somewhat understanding and passive when it comes to certain things, because if not, you're going to burn out good contractors. They're not going to want to work with you. And finding a good contractor has its value too. Because if you fire this guy because of a disagreement on like $1,000 adjustment, and then you take on a new contract next time and he burns you for $15,000, sometimes you don't win. So take everything as this each case scenario is separate scenario. Case by case, because you don't want to just throw everybody into the same category as just being liars. You got to really see what it is. If the guy comes and says, "Oh, what, these floors they're terrible. We need to change them." Dude, you saw the floors. Like you saw what they look like before. You should include it in your bid.
Right.
Those are the things that you can fight for, but not other things that.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Mortgage brokers.
Sure.
So I know you're probably gonna. So I know there's different techniques, different strategies where you can get money. I know mortgage broker probably a good person to, I guess, have in your pocket to be able to lean on if you need to get funding.
Yes.
I guess recommendations or references there would be good.
And mortgage brokers, you're not going to be able to use, in a sense, traditional mortgage brokers because they don't do a lot of the investment renovation financing that you're looking for. Right now, the only product that any mortgage broker is going to have for you is the home style mortgage product that is okay for investors to use, but it's limited to single family properties only, and it's 30% down. So it's pretty cash heavy on the investment part on your end. But the terms are great. You know, you're going to have like a 4%, 5% interest rate, maybe 1 point. You know, like if that. So the terms are great for you as an investor, but if you can't go that route for whatever reason, because maybe you don't qualify for it or whatever happens, you could always go the private money route. And those are the guys that you've heard of, hard money.
Right. So that's a good segue. So as far as that hard money, when you get that, so I guess it all depends on the investor there, where you work out the terms with them. But typically, what I've understood is that you're going to work out it's pretty short term. And it could be, you're going to be paying pretty high, like 12%. From what I understand, right?
Well, that's average.
So, how does that work? So, if they, like, I found a motivated seller, I find a private lender. When I get that money to pay for the home, when does that, so I guess depending on the terms, of course, that I have to pay the full amount. So usually, from what I understand, it's like a year out or like 13 months out. So I can then refinance and get maybe a traditional mortgage.
If you're going to keep it?
To keep it, if I'm going to keep it.
Yeah, you can get commercial on that.
But during those 13 months, is there a payment like a typical mortgage?
Yeah, there is. So most hard money lenders are going to expect their interest monthly. Unless you've worked out a deal with them where they can just throw it on the back end and just defer it until you're done. If you do that, typically they will give you a higher interest rate because of that.
Got it. Okay.
You understand? So you're not feeling it on a monthly basis, but it's going to be taken from your profit, or it's going to be taken from your refinance when you refi out of it.
Right.
So you can do both, but it just comes at a price.
Right, and that's just so that you can get into the property pretty quick. You would still tell them that I would put in the 20%, they would cover the rest, right? Or
cover the rest, and they even give you 100% of the construction.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then that's why it's important to basically get everything done within a short time frame, so I can get renters in and then start.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, the quicker you can move, the better.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, sometimes what happens is that you might be buying a property, it's a two-family, and they have 2 tenants in there, and one of the units is in good shape. Maybe you just keep the one tenant. That way it can help you offset your mortgage payment every month. Then you work on the other one, and then you tell them, move upstairs, I'll fix the other one, whatever it is, And then you have a set of eyes on the property too.
So that's another good question. So I'm always, I hear a lot of different opinions. Some people are like single families, that's where you can get, usually you're going to get good appreciation there, multifamilies, but then you get, that's how you multiply, your income there because you have multiple rents. But then I guess there's pros and cons to both, right? Because with single family, you only have one tenant, one problem. With multifamilies, it could be 2, 3, 4. I guess I'm depending on if you're doing the property management yourself, or basically I don't want to deal with having people call me, right? I want to be more focused on finding the deals. I consider my time to be the most valuable, and I want to make sure that, any of the stuff that is, not remedial, but something that I can outsource to someone else that, is a professional with that,
Right.
Why not? So I think at least for dipping my toes in, maybe a single family would be a good start, and then move on to like the bigger family units. Depending on maybe how things turn out, or maybe I may just jump into a 2-family.
Right.
But
it just depends on the deal. You can get a slamming deal on a 2-family or on a 1-family. It just depends. on what develops, what appears itself to you.
Okay.
Just don't turn it down because it doesn't fit the one thing you had in your mind.
And as far as the markets, right? Because I've been doing research on because I understand they classify the I guess the neighborhoods by type, right? So it's like the A through D. So A is your more like luxurious. B and C is kind of like that middle, white collar, blue collar, and D is like
the hood.
Yeah. So I definitely want to stay in that sweet spot of BC.
Mm-hmm. Where the majority of the population is. Right? The tax-paying population.
Right. Because the luxurious, maybe I would get some really good tenants, but from what I understand, and I can see that where, they're going to be a pain in the butt, right? They're going to.
Not so much that. It's just that your rate of return is much lower because you're dealing with a much different demographic. These people make a lot of money, but also the property that you have to get for them are super expensive.
Right.
So you're gonna shell out $500,000 for a 2-family house. You'll get $2,400, $2,500 of rent for each apartment, but you still have to shell out $500,000. Meanwhile, you could probably get a 2-family for $200,000, probably rent it for $1,500. So your rate of return is much higher if you go with, like you said, the B's and C's.
B's and C's, right.
Yeah.
So finding out those markets, right? Because I have in my head already a couple towns that, especially my town, I probably want to do a little bit more research in my town because that's like blue collar, kind of white collar. I mean, it's pretty big town, but good town. And probably Middlesex. I want to probably stick in Middlesex, but like how are you? Like, did you start like in one area and then you kind of I guess as you were growing, then you started to fan out, maybe look at other areas.
Yeah, wherever I felt comfortable. In the beginning, my first investments were in Elizabeth, just because I know Elizabeth so well. I just felt like I could move anything in Elizabeth, so I started there. And just recently, I just bought my first property in Ocean County. Like now, I'll go anywhere within like a 6 or 7 county region, just because I'm comfortable, and I know people in different demographics now, where I can sell a property in Ocean County just as easily as I can sell one here in Elizabeth now. So it just depends on, you don't try to take over the world right away. It's taken me a long time to be able to develop different areas and different niches. But whatever you feel comfortable with first, stick with that. And then sooner or later you'll...
That's a really good point, the comfort level, right? I want to feel comfortable. And that's why I was looking at Elizabeth, Linden too, because, there's a short ride to the city. That's more of on the seaside, I would consider it. But regardless, I mean, there's a lot of multifamilies in Linden, Elizabeth. So the potential, I guess, for good assets are there, I think.
Yeah. What you gotta look at is this: depending on what your strategy is at first. If it's flipping, forget about the commuters, forget about the proximity to the schools. Just look at what has the neighborhood sold for. And base your decisions strictly on analytics. Just like 250 is the top of the market. I can get this for 100. My construction's 50. I'm all in at 150. The numbers work.
Okay.
Don't try to think of every possible scenario that could affect the sale of the home. Like, okay, well this year, the Fed has raised increased rates. Who are the people buying in these areas? Is it near a sex offender? Is like so many external factors that can make a decision for you.
Like crime rate.
Just worry about the numbers. That's it. Nothing else. That's all that matters. Believe me, you'll be fine when it comes to that, because people search neighborhoods by price, and if you're priced right, it'll sell. That's really what it comes down to. Sooner or later on, when you want to start buying homes to keep, if you don't want to deal with a certain type of tenant or demographic, then you want to start researching that stuff a little more.
Okay.
That's fine, I understand that. You want to get commuters from the city, and that's where you want to rent to, then you buy by train stations.
Okay.
That's
and I find myself overanalyzing sometimes. I'm like looking at, trying to. I get what you're saying. Just kind of try to keep it simple, and basically the bottom line is, if the numbers work, then everything else.
Have you ever heard of this thing called the paralysis of analysis?
I've heard of that.
You've heard of that, right?
Yeah.
That's what happens to a lot of people. I recently just did a talk about that, and it's the number one thing that keeps people from being productive. Is that they just wait till everything is perfect, and that's never going to come. It's not going to happen. So just try, obviously you want to gear yourself up and you want to get educated on it, but just know that there are going to be some failures along the way, no matter how hard you practice or you try, and that's fine, because you didn't go to college to get an MBA or in real estate or anything like that. You're gonna learn on your own dollar.
Yeah.
And it's all right, bro. I mean, like you're young. You know, you got the rest of your life to make mistakes and still be okay.
Right.
So you'll be good. What else you got on your agenda?
All right, so we were talking about that.
Loan officers, I think we spoke about, right?
What's that?
Loan officers, I think we covered.
Yeah, I think we covered that. So title, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably would need to work with someone that's a title insurer.
Yeah, title agents are not all built the same. Some specialize in distressed homes, distressed properties, foreclosure properties, because there are special things that you need to do for those properties. You know, you need to go back a certain amount of years. You need to do a nationwide search, make sure that everyone was served correctly in a foreclosure. If not, you can get screwed. So I've seen instances where title companies have cleared title, and then the person has gone with another title company just to get a second opinion, and they've come up with stuff that was not supposed to be on there. So yeah, it's really important that you make a good connection with a title company that does those kinds of searches.
Okay.
And I'll give you a few of those.
Okay. Cool. So as far as the property management, you know, I was originally asking for good systems for that, but after thinking that over and over, I don't think I want to deal with that. I mean, because I'm not looking to do one or two holds, right? I basically want to amass. I want to have a pretty large balance sheet, right? So I would rather just farm that out, have deal with a good property manager and
just pay that.
Yeah. So I think we're good
Yeah,
with
you're
that.
thinking long term.
So as far as the data for the information on the criteria, right? So the average rents, in utilities, vacancy rate, capex, class type. I mean, I think class type I could kind of maybe figure it out myself, but as far as that information, is that like a mixture of working with a good real estate and a property manager, or or one or the other would have that sort of information that I can...
For class X? For class?
The class type was the property type that we were saying it'd be.
What in order to acquire property, to find property, is that what you're saying?
So to analyze property. So
so if you need to get an idea of what it's worth. Look, there's really great systems. You should never depend. Your business plan should never have where it's dependent on a third party that's not in house. You're gonna have to one day probably either pay for Redfin or I think there's another one that's called. My buddy has it. Real. I forget the name of it. He uses it all the time. It gives you up to the minute, up to the day,
Is it Real Track?
Realty Track.
Realty Track?
Yeah. He uses Realty Track, and it gives you up to the day information. It's very, very accurate. But they come at a price, and it's not that much money. It's less than what realtors pay to use their sites, and it's all there. So you're going to want to start looking at these websites in order to start making educated decisions, and just build out from there. I mean, you could do a lot of the research yourself. Because you're not going to, any good realtor that knows all this stuff that you're going to need from them is not going to be accessible at any time that you need the information. So in order to be more proficient, you need to know how to do it, or you need to train someone to do it in-house after you get, really busy with it.
Okay. Yeah, because, the calculators that I've been seeing online to calculate the cash on cash and basically how much you would get cash flow. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the variables, they're always saying the vacancy percentage, the repair, maintenance, capital expenditures, and the other things. The vacancy one, I've been hearing 6%.
Depends on your market.
But that's the thing. How do you figure out that market?
There's no perfect number for that. You're just gonna have to use 5% as a general number around here in New Jersey. Usually 5%, because one of the things is this: you'll never have an empty unit. Your units will rent like that, no problem, because we're in Northern Jersey. Problem is not that. Problem is if somebody doesn't pay you. Now that unit is typically considered to be vacant because it's not producing you money. Right. So it may take you 2 months to evict this person. And if it takes you 2 months, then that's a vacant unit for those 2 months. So that's the reason why you're even using that. But you're not going to have an eviction every time, and you very rarely will ever have an eviction if you screen the people right.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? Okay. And as far as utilities, right? So is it depending on the market where because do typically the owners pay for utilities? I mean,
owners usually pay for water.
Just
unless
water.
Unless you figure something else out with the tenants. Like if the tenants want washing machines, if they're gonna have their cousins move in with them, then you guys start telling them, listen, that's fine, just pay for the water. Typically, rule of thumb is that an apartment should use about $50 in water a month, right? But I have, like, you can ask my assistant, I have a house in Elizabeth, I don't know, they must have a car wash on the weekends or something, because I get a water bill every 3 months for $550, like clockwork. I don't know what the hell they're doing. So there's really no exact number, but I've seen that when it comes to water, it's usually about $50 per unit, and if it's common electric hallways and stuff like that, it's like $15 a month.
But what about cause so sometimes, like my town, they make us pay for sewage.
Mm-hmm.
So who covers that? The owner?
Yeah, the owner does too, because it comes part of as part of the water bill. It's municipal, so there's no way of telling who's flushing the toilet more.
Okay.
So things.
That's a good point. So anything that's potentially municipal.
But if it's a single family, dude, it's different. They cover everything: water, sewer, trash pickup, whatever. Anything and everything that goes along with having that house. It's on them.
Yeah. Oh, really? The owner would have to pay for trash as well.
Not the owner, the tenant.
Oh, the tenant. The
tenant pays for everything, because now we know who used it. You're the only one living in the house.
Right.
And when it's a multi-family, you can't say, well, you use, according to the guy who lives on the first floor, he says you brush your teeth and leave the water running. You don't know. You just don't know, so you just got to suck it up and pay the water, and pay the sewer. But if it's single family, everything, snow removal, lawn care, everything could be on them. It just depends how you draw up your lease.
All right, that's a fair point. All right, that's good. Yeah, because I was like, how do you know? I see these calculators asking for utilities and stuff. I'm like, I don't understand. Like, what? I don't remember when I was renting. That I had to, pay for some of that stuff. So okay. So wholesaling, right now, the wholesaling, and that's where my plan kind of already organically changed, because when I wrote it the first initial time, I didn't have any idea or understanding of what wholesaling was.
Mm-hmm.
So now and that's why I want to talk to an attorney is, because I'm hearing mixed things as far as the legality of doing wholesale assignments in New Jersey.
Okay.
I'm hearing people say that it's not legal, it's not a legal thing to do, but I'm seeing other sites saying that it's totally legal, as long as the language within the contract that you're,
allows you to do that.
Right, and also the marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And the marketing that you do, to find those leads, that they're under the clear assumption that, you're a wholesaler. You're not basically, you're not going to be the buyer.
You're signing paper.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not, you're not, the paper that they're signing is not closing on it. That's just a contract saying that basically we're agreeing on this price, and I'm going to find a buyer within a certain amount of time or whatever.
Correct. So most people don't even do that.
What's that?
That's definitely what you're saying is 100% an assignment contract.
Right.
100%. You're telling the seller, but the thing is, if you go to every seller saying that, you're going to get very little sellers that are going to want to sell you their house. You're going to say, no, what the hell? If I can get more money for it, I'll do it myself. If you can get more money for it, I'd just rather do it myself. So you got to be careful with those, because there's ways around it where you don't have to disclose it to the seller, but you're still not doing anything wrong. There's different ways of wholesaling. If you go to a sheriff sale, you can assign your bid. It's 100% legal. That's the way most of the guys are doing wholesaling nowadays. So if you make it to that, that's like the pinnacle of being an investor, is going to sheriff sales.
Yeah, but sheriff sales, you got to pay. You got to have a money order. You got to have cash in, right?
20% down that day.
20% that day.
Yeah. So you can assign your bid 100%, no questions asked. It's just routine. That's what happens there. If you just happen to catch a good deal on the open market, you can assign that too. But there's different ways that you can assign it. So you would, I can get into details with you, and I'm just going to keep it very general for now. But what you just need to do is you need to make an offer on each property you're making an offer on under a new LLC that doesn't have any ties to any pre-existing properties. So the reason why you do that is because if you want to assign that property to someone else, since the contract is not really allowing you to do that, the one you have with the homeowner, because it's not laid out where you're going to do an assignment, all contracts are assignable with the seller's consent. So even if you write up a regular contract and you say, listen, sorry, I came across some issues, I just wanted to let you know that I'm still going to, make sure this deal closes, but I'm going to be assigning it to a buddy of mine who wants to take my place. Is that okay with you? Sure, you're still going to get your money, don't worry about it. Most of the time they're going to say yes. It's all in a delivery, right? But if that doesn't work for you, you can just have your LLC that you opened up for that transaction. And then that LLC, what you do is you just assign the membership rights of the LLC to the other guy.
Okay.
Buys your LLC out, and then you still get your profit. So there's still a legal way to do it. Technically, the contract is still in effect because the entity that was buying the property was, Alex LLC, and the deal still goes forward.
Okay, that's good information. Yeah. Yeah, because I was always under. Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying as far as how you're positioning it, and as far as the seller maybe not liking the fact that you're basically gonna just take a cut from.
If it was me, I would say, listen, dude, if I wanted a realtor, I'd go get a realtor. Basically, is what you're acting as. But some people are very not what I say. Dumb, but laissez-faire, they don't care. Yeah, sure, go knock yourself out.
Right.
So you'll get some people like that, but the majority of people are going to be smart enough. They're going to say, no, dude. I mean, it sounds to me like what you're doing is you're not. No, I don't have anything solid here. It's saying that in the event that you find someone, you're gonna, assign the property. It's not telling me with any certainty that you're really going to close on it. I know some of these contracts do have a given date that you have to close by, but you're kind of telling them look, if I had the money, I'd buy it and then I'd wholesale it, but I don't. So I'm getting someone else to buy it from me so I can make some money in between. That's really what it sounds like in my head if somebody came to me with that. But again, you can get yourself. The hardest thing is getting your foot in the door. So once you have a contract with someone, you can come up with 1,000,001 reasons to assign the property over later if you had assign the contract over later if you had to, without even having to have an official assignment contract already in place. So it just depends, dude. I mean, I think the easiest way is just to always have that LLC in place. It costs $100 to open up.
Well, that's what I did with that.
Yeah.
That's actual. I did that online.
Yeah, it costs you nothing to open it up, and then if the deal works out, great. If not, you use it for the next one. They're disposable nowadays. I can't even keep track of how many I have. But
oh, really?
Yeah, it's just every house needs one. So, and then if it doesn't work out, like I said, you always have your pipeline of LLCs that you can grab and use for the next time.
Oh, okay. So as far as when those contracts, right? You probably got to work with your attorney to give you a good contract like that, right?
Your title company, your attorney, they'll give you one to use.
Okay. And as far as the signing, in New Jersey, is the signing being done through the title company, or is that being done through an attorney?
Either one. The thing is, you got to work with people that are knowledgeable. You don't need to use an attorney to do an assignment. You just need someone to record the process correctly.
Right. Yeah, because there's probably a major price difference, right? Working with an attorney or title.
Not major. I mean, a title company that knows what they're doing is not going to be cheap either. They're going to be about $750, and then attorney's going to be about $1,500. So it's not a huge difference. It just depends who you like working with. The extra $750 with somebody that was an attorney that you feel really good about, sometimes may be worth it. So it just depends on how much money, how much spread you have in the deal too.
Okay. Yeah. So you were telling me before the way you're finding your leads is more through going through sheriff sales, and I guess you're generating leads through whatever you're.
You gotta market it too. I mean, the best thing I would tell you is never to rely on a realtor, because they have a laundry list of investors, not just you. If you got someone who's just fresh out of school, maybe you'll be lucky. But the thing is, what you should always do is have your own ways of getting deals. Send out postcards, do prospecting calls, whatever you need to do in order to get these people to want to sell, will be good. You're going to get some traction. I mean, send out 1,000 postcards a month. You'll get someone to call it back. One deal will make sense to you.
Okay.
So it's a simple way of doing things, and that way you can.
So so finding that information, right? Because I think I had seen. I think it was called List. It's like a website where you can. ListSource, yeah. ListSource is, I guess, a pretty common website where you can get.
You can pick anything you want from there.
Right. So there's one guy who was saying, I guess that the things that when they go through test runs, the ones with the higher conversion rates are the ones with equity. You want to look at people with equity between 40 to 50%. code violations, and tax delinquents, like in anything that are 2 years behind. And basically, that's how you build your list, and then you start to do
Target
that.
them.
You target them for the
Mhm.
for the postcards. I mean, from what I understand is, like anything, right? You don't want to try to do too much of too many different things. Focus on one marketing campaign and be like,
Just stick with it.
just like,
Give it 6 months.
yeah, I mean, be really good with that.
Mhm.
Try to crush it with it, and then hopefully you start to build that pipeline.
100%. There's no secret to it, but patience and time, and just the repetitive actions that are going to bring you success. So you'll be fine. Just do that. I mean, there's no. See, the thing is that people think you're going to get rich overnight in this business, but there's a lot of work that goes into it before you even get a good deal. You have to say no to a lot of properties too.
Mhm.
You just can't say yes to the first property you see just because you're eager to do something.
Right.
You understand? Warren Buffett says that, he says, for every yes he says, there's 10 no's he says, or maybe more,
Yeah.
So,
The numbers game.
it is, man. So, don't try to swim for everything.
On the initial ones, I'm not gonna know what to do. So I understand that there's joint ventures that people do. I mean, do you do joint ventures with?
I do and I don't. I mean, like, if you have questions, I'll help you as much as possible without even charging you a dime. Just because I know that once the house is done and you need a good realtor, hopefully you'll pick us and we'll help you, sell the property. So I'll hold your hand through the whole process. You don't need to worry about JV, splitting profits, anything like that. I think that, to me, I like helping people like you. Reminds me when I first started and I had no clue where to go.
Okay.
So whenever you find the right property, you want me to analyze it with you, I'll check it out with you.
Okay. Cool. That's good to know.
Mhm.
That's good to know. I mean, I think that's basically it. I mean, my next steps are basically where, if you can give me a reference for a good CPA and attorney, I'd probably want to start talking to them.
Sure, I'll give you both of them. Well, actually, for attorneys, I've got 3 outstanding attorneys I'll give you there, and they're all good. You pick, depending on what your comfort level is.
Okay.
I have one main guy I give all my business to, but you may not find him to be your best pick. I'll give you 3 of them. But my CPA, I mean, he hands down, he's the best for what we do. He knows every in and out, save you money. So I'll give you his info.
And so these guys, of course, do they do their own investing as well, or they? I mean, they're okay.
Yeah,
Very good.
they know what they're doing. The CPA that I use, he does somewhat, but majority of his clientele are all real estate people. So
Okay.
he knows like that. Because it's not his niche. His niche is what he does.
Mhm.
He'll buy a house here and there, but it's not like he's your competition.
Right.
By far.
Oh, the last thing so I didn't write this down. So the other technique as far as funding, 401ks.
Yeah.
Have you heard about the solo 401k, and then they also have the self-directed IRA, where you could basically use the funds from that
Yeah.
to basically.
That'd be amazing if you could do that, because you could get a very almost no cost loan out of it. Yeah, I would do that if I were you. Obviously, there's limitations to the amount of money you can take out. I think it's like you can take out maybe 50 to 60%. I'm not sure if you've done the homework on it.
Well, that's if you take out the loans, but I think if you're taking, basically you have what they say is check control, or basically you have direct that, because that money is basically going to be put into a separate bank. And then from that bank, you're going to have checking account access to it, so you could basically write whatever amount you want that you have, as far as funds.
Yes.
The thing there with, I guess the net profits that you make from the house, I mean, I'm not going to get that. That's all going to go back to the 401k.
Not all of it, just the payment, just whatever it lent you, just the portion that it lent you out. So the 401k, and correct me if I'm wrong, but my CPA told me that on a 401k or IRA self-directed, if you have $100,000 in there, you can't loan yourself $100,000. There's up to a certain amount that you can take out.
For loaning, I think it's only 50,000. I think the max is. So
50%.
if I wanted to, I guess,
Buy a house.
if I wanted to loan myself the money and then use that money, I can only do 50,000. But then there's this other thing where you can basically, and you have to work with, I forget the term that they use. Basically, you have to work with a company that will manage that for you, and you have to pay them a service to do this setup for you. But the thing that I've been reading, and Who was this? I think is it in the book that I'm reading right now? The Millionaire Real Estate. Basically, they were saying that, it was in Rich Dad Poor Dad, the tax book that one of his partners wrote.
Yeah.
Basically, so owning property as assets is a tax shelter.
Yes.
401k is another tax shelter.
Mm-hmm.
So they're saying if you basically combine both of those, it's like a negative doesn't equal positives. So it's basically it's counter.
It's a wash.
Yeah. So you want to be careful with that. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to do that. But if you want to loan yourself, I guess that would be the best option. But probably let me talk to the CPA.
Yeah, CPA told, because I called him on the same question you're asking me right now the other day for another client. And he says, yeah, absolutely, you can do that, but he said you can only take out to a certain amount, and you're not going to let you take out 100% of it.
Okay.
He said it was like 50 to 60% depending on you.
Right.
But I don't know what, I had clients who've also bought houses like that, and, they've been very successful with it, so I know that that's a good option. Instead of having the brokers invest your money, you self-direct it, like it's called, into anything you want.
Okay.
And you don't need to roll your 401k into a self-directed IRA. You can keep it in a 401k, and I think now they have options for that, like you were saying.
Okay.
To just take the money out for necessary purposes.
Right. Yeah, no, I'll talk to him about that. I mean, I just want to have as many options, I guess, to try to get some skin in this game, right? So I think probably the piece I'll focus on now is learning more about the wholesaling. And maybe as I'm trying to sell my house right now and trying to find a new home, maybe I can build up that capital doing the wholesaling.
Yeah, you can, absolutely. And it doesn't take a lot of money to get started. Like, if you find a decent property on your own, the homeowner's not going to expect you to give them 20% down to put a contract on their property. If you give the attorney $1,000, that's peanuts, and you could leverage probably a potential $10,000, $15,000 as an assignment.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that's a good way to start.
Yeah, I'll do that. As far as are you for your CRM system? Like, are you for me to start out with, and because if I'm gonna do a marketing campaign, I'm gonna have to be able to document this
Keep
stuff.
up with the stuff that's coming in.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if I should start with just like a spreadsheet, or should I? I mean, is it too much for me to start, looking at? Because I've seen some cloud services that are out there. There's a Podio.
Podio is a popular one. I was going to tell you that's something you'd like.
So I understand that stuff because I'm in technology,
Software,
right?
yeah.
So the thing is, like, I don't know if am I getting ahead of myself by looking at all this stuff?
I think it's better in the beginning, that way that you don't know any other way but this way. Because if you use all spreadsheets now, later on it's going to come the day where you need to convert everything to a system in your code.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
But I use both. I mean, don't get me wrong. But I think that if I would have to start today over, I'd go the more technological way instead of doing it the old-fashioned spreadsheet way.
Okay.
Because it is easier to do sometimes. It's a spreadsheet, bang, you're created, you're done, you're over with. But there is a lot to be said for these CRMs that keep in touch with these people for you all the time.
Right. And that's the other thing that so with the 4-hour work week, and that was another book that I read. So that you want to try to automate it as much as possible.
Yeah.
If so basically trying to do like that 80-20. You're trying to do 20% of the work for 80% of the game, right?
Yeah.
So I'm already process oriented with my job, so that's basically what I do with my managing the operations team. I'm all about process, trying to shrink down the time and trying to deliver on things. So. That's why when I started to look at this, I'm like, there's already kind of models already out there, and I'm kind of piecing everything together, to fit my need, of course. But I can see where, I guess taking what I know from what I've learned in my business, working for a business, putting that in my own business.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. So you know your strong points and you know your weaknesses. So just
it's
good that you're self-aware and just use that as an advantage. A lot of guys aren't going to be as organized as you are, and they've got 10, 20 years in the game.
Right.
So you will have that advantage.
All right, cool.
Yeah, that's great, bro. No, I'm glad you came by, man. And whatever you need from me, man, I'm one call away.
All right, no, thank you.
Awesome, bro. Good. You learned.
So I mean, the other thing is, I want to continue to network, right? So if there are events that you're having, and that maybe put me in contact with more people.
Yeah.
By all means, invite me. I think there's a RIA there's a RIA meeting. I think like once a month, and I think it's around here somewhere.
It's in Garwood. Yeah. If you want to go to that one, I think it's the end. last Wednesday of every month or something. You can go to that.
But
It's on Meetup. Download the app on your phone, the Meetup app, and you can see all the networking events for real estate.
Oh, really?
So,
Okay.
Yeah, and just go to that stuff. I mean, I do one every 2 weeks in Jersey City, but we're gonna start expanding pretty soon, so we'll be local pretty soon.
Okay.
And that's really just for geared towards the sheriff's cell in Hudson County. So pretty soon we're gonna start working on it in every county, not every county, but more counties. So maybe you can go to one of the future ones for that.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be cool. Yeah, but there's Meetup. Meetup is the best place for you to find these things. I know a couple guys that are like that do those, that run those groups, and other guys that are actually even starting new ones.
Mm-hmm.
It's because it's pretty nothing successful, but it's good. You know, you network with people and you meet important.
Right. Well, that I
Yeah.
basically want to start rubbing shoulders
Yeah.
and talking to people that are already doing it, maybe starting to do it, and
Absolutely.
the other side of this is, and it's good that you're like videotaping this, right?
Mhm.
So there's a lot of content out there, right?
Tons.
And I've been talking to my wife about this. I'm like, it wouldn't be bad for us to start videotaping, me starting to kind of step into this,
Mhm.
right?
Your progression.
Right? So, and potentially some passive money would be there too, because, if you start to get like
A lot of
some
views.
views and
Mhm.
subscribers and all that. And so I've been trying to think about that as well, seeing how, because probably just start simple, just videotaping myself talking about what I'm doing, the process, and
You'd be surprised how many people are out there looking for that.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, so it's an idea. I mean, I don't know if I'll do it because I've never really talked to a camera.
Mhm. It's the hardest thing.
Yeah, trying to convey my thoughts and
You forget your own name.
Yeah.
It takes time, man. It takes time. It took me time. That was terrible. She kind of used to pick on me when I used to first start talking to the camera, but it becomes second nature after a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you.